What's up, Vet TV? I'm here with Robert Ham, an Army vet who served from 2007 to 2017, is a combat videographer and paratrooper. He's deployed to Afghanistan along, as well as a dozen other countries in the Pacific, where he has received 3 Department of Defense Military Videographer of the Year awards, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, as well as achieving the rank of Staff Sergeant. So Robert Ham here is also an alumni of USC School of Cinematic Arts, and he's received 1, 2, 3, 4 Emmys. 4 Emmys. I'm like fanboying. Robert, it's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Is there anything I missed that you feel like the people who are watching right now would like to hear as well?
I guess the only other thing is that I'm a Los Angeles native. I was son to 2 artists, so I grew up totally outside. Never really anticipated going into the military. My dad was a traveling musician, so he was gone a lot. Played with a lot of bands. Everybody like Cher, Toto, Kansas, a whole bunch of cool bands in the 80s and the 90s, and he's actually literally on tour with Ringo Starr right now.
Wow.
So that was the dad that I grew up with, and I wasn't interested until the military. I always wanted to do filmmaking, basically.
Yeah.
And but 2001, 9/11 happened, and I was 18, kind of just bridging that gap into manhood, and it just impacted me. But I was in college, so it took me a few years to decide to join. But then I found out that they had basically public affairs combat videography, and I'm like, let's do it. So
yeah, so it seemed like your civilian life prepared you to pick a better role than just something generic that you weren't too inclined or interested in while you were in the military.
Well, and when I went to the recruiter, honestly, I didn't know all the different jobs that the military offered. I kind of thought everything was infantry.
Yeah.
So I was ready to just do the thing. But then they're like, no, you have a degree, so you could come in as a specialist. If you want to go officer, I'm like, no offense to officers, but I want to be on the front line and do my thing.
Yeah.
So they gave me the job. I got a big bonus because it was like at the height of the Iraq surge, so not a lot of dudes were joining. And I got an airborne contract and did the thing. So
during my time in the Marines, I've met a couple of combat camera. Combat cameramen? Yeah, combat cameramen, and they're always the sweetest people. Like, is that true? Everyone you know, like they seem like you, like nice, genuine, happy people.
I think, a lot of those who get into this field want to do the art thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like when you join the military, and from military experience, art and sensitivity and emotion and creativity don't always vibe with the mission of the military.
Yeah.
But that's why a lot of those folks join, is to tell the stories of the military service people. And so I think that initial reason is why they get in. One thing I always like to say, we go to this, so AIT, when you were a rifleman, you said, so you did AIT, which is like your advanced training in infantry or whatever. We go to a school called Defense Information School. And I always say it's a military art school. It's like, you do all the military stuff. You got to get up early, got to do all the runs and all the push and everything. But then during the day, you're going and learning video skills and photo skills and graphic design skills. So it was an eclectic group of, kind of weirdo outsiders, not only from the civilian world, but a little bit of an outsider in the military world too,
Probably the best social skills, because they understand what they're trying to capture on film needs to respond and not like push away, probably like a proximic push. I have to ask, so you're a creative, and as a creative, what specific emotion do you feel drives you to create something that others can genuinely connect to?
That's a good question. I've always wanted to influence people and influence people's minds. But the way to get to people's minds, especially in our modern culture, but always throughout history, is through the heart. We pass down, storytelling is an ancient thing. And it's a way that, people used to sit around the fire and share stories about their experiences. The natives would come back after after their battles, and they'd sit around and they'd share their stories with a group of people, and that would carry down to the generations after them. You know, it would be like, this is what we value and care about. These are our heroes. These are the people that have done things important. Let's pass it down to the next generation. And I feel like, you know, I love this country. I love what it stands for. We have a lot of things that we have to deal with and grapple with, and a lot of mistakes that we've made. And so, but I'm still very proud of my service, and I want to share those stories and help represent the myriad of really, I mean, we've served in the company of heroes. We've served in the company of people who have gone beyond service, who have sacrificed themselves for a greater cause. And sometimes I feel like there's such a disconnect between like the military and like the rest of the country. It's like less than 1% of people have served in the military, and even less in combat during the 20 years. And so, and they kind of just don't get it. And it's not that they don't want to get it. It's just that they need a bridge, an entry bridge. And military folks who have gone and done these things, maybe this is your experience too, are not the best at sharing their stories, and not the best at sharing their own experience, because it's traumatic, it's hard, it's difficult. And so I hope that, you know, because I have this experience in this community, that I could help bridge that gap and share some of these very, very important stories that are like grounded in what it means to be an American, what it means to be bigger than ourselves, what it means to help humans. There you go.
People like you make the best dads, by the way. Have you ever been told that?
Thank
like
you.
the value of tradition and nostalgia. I feel like that's the emotion we're kind of tapping on. If we could label that as an emotion or a feeling, the feeling of nostalgia, the importance of pushing something from our culture onto the next generation so they can understand where they came from. What would you say the best piece of work, what would you say the best piece of work you've created? Do you think it was channeled by that emotion?
Yeah. You know, I try to put my heart and pain and life experience and whatever level of talent I've achieved at that time, right, as best as I can into all of my pieces of work. And I've done a lot of different pieces. I think one of the ones that channeled that when I was in Afghanistan, it was called Attack on the 4th of July. And it was, we had a major attack at a very small outpost. It was a 2-platoon man outpost in the middle of nowhere, in a valley surrounded by mountains. And it was a planned attack for months. And the Taliban attacked them on July 4th, purposely, because that was a day of celebration for Americans. And they bombarded this with like over 200 Taliban. They recorded it from like 4 or 5 different angles. They had guys like me. They had like the Taliban version of me out there, like recording everything. And I remember when I heard about the attack that morning from my larger, more comfortable base. You know, I was at a forward operating base, and my public affairs officer comes in and he's like, you need to go and tell these guys stories, because we lost 2 dudes that day, Justin Casillas and Aaron Fairbairn, 20 and 19 years old. They were mortarmen. One of them received a Silver Star for trying to carry, Justin received a Silver Star for carrying Aaron out of the mortar pit after he was injured, and then he got hit by a mortar and was killed. And these guys held off, you know, 200 guys with a vehicle IED that blew up. It looked like a nuclear bomb that blew up outside the gate. And they held these guys off with valor and courage. And so I got to go a week after this attack and spend time with them for about 2 weeks. I just stayed on this remote outpost, you know, and you're burning your own crap and everybody smells, and it's like in the middle of nowhere, and we were doing patrols and stuff. And I got to interview them, you know, fresh from this attack. I got to like, I kind of like did some recreations and stuff on the base. And I put together this like 20-minute film called Attack on the 4th of July. And I felt like it was the best representation of the stuff that I wanted to do while I was in Afghanistan, because it, you know, I've now shown that piece a lot. It was on Hulu and Amazon Prime. And I guess, you know, my goal with that was to show that these guys are a lot of these are kids. I mean, if you remember what you were doing at 19 and 20 and 21, like to have the pressure of being a mortarman, to have the pressure of defending a outpost, you know, so I guess that's a piece that kind of comes to mind. And I remember when I finished the whole piece and I showed it to him, and really, you know, my dream would be to make a movie about this, because it's like a documentary doesn't even do it justice. But they came up to me and they said, man, this really feels like we were able to share. I mean, they could show this to their parents, and they could show this to their friends and their girlfriends and their wives and stuff, and say, look, this is what it was like, and we lost 2 dudes, and this is serious for us. And for America, it's like, you know, it's on the news for 5 minutes and then it's over, and then we don't even think about it again. And it's like, I think about Justin and Aaron every day, or almost every day, especially around July 4th, you know, because they sacrificed, whether you like whatever your opinions are on the war. We all got opinions on all the wars and everything. They did it. They stood on the gate and defended this country. So, yeah.
You know, I think about that a lot. Can we be better at communication? Can we be better at almost like a transference of information, so people understand our exact perception, so they can relate to it more? And going back to what we talked a little bit about before, like that specific emotion, it seems like, again, it's that tradition, it's that nostalgia, and it's being able to, I guess that's what art is. Would you kind of agree? Is being able to share something for somebody else's perception, and being able to channel what they perceive and why.
100%. I think a big part of it is, you know, as we grow, we're very limited in our perspective, right? Like, this is where I came from, this is my point of view, and it's very, very difficult. It takes a long time to take yourself out of your own shoes and put yourself in somebody else's shoes and somebody else's experience. And I think that's what especially storytelling as an art form can do, is it could, like, there's a lot of stories out there I had no idea about this person's experience or this person's experience, but when you can empathize with somebody else and kind of like release our own ego, it allows us to relate to them, to hopefully be better empathetic, more empathetic people, kinder, more loving to people, because everybody has a story, and there's a reason why everybody is who they are. And I think that's one of the reasons that I resonate so much with storytelling, and why I got into filmmaking, because my dad was gone a lot when I was growing up, and I was always looking for male figures, and my male figures were the heroes in the movies that I was watching.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I know it's hard being, you know, a straight man with daddy issues. It's very confusing.
Yeah, you know, we all got daddy issues and mom issues, so it's all.
Would the military version of you be surprised with where you're at today? What would he say? What would he think?
Man, that's another good question. I think
you like these? I may have wrote them.
Yeah, no, these are good. You know, I tell myself, I've gone through a lot in my life, as we all have, and I try to look back. I'll go even further beyond my military person. I try to look back at that 16-year-old kid who didn't know anything about the world, who had all these big dreams and all these things, and thought he would maybe be in a different place, you know, bridging 40. But I think he would look in and say, you know, you've done your best. You know, proud of who I've become. But it takes a lot of work. I think the military person, you know, I struggled a lot when I got out of the military, because I had founded this person who I thought I was in the military, and I honestly thought I would be in some ways even further than I am now. But you know what? It's not, for me, it's not about that. It's about like trying to live day to day, trying to not have these great delusions of grandeur that I maybe had in my youth, but to live a day to day the best I can, you know, do the projects that are coming my way as best as I can, and keep moving forward. So I think, to answer your question, I think he would be proud, he would be surprised in a lot of ways, and also considering, you know, all the triumphs and tribulations that I've been through, I think I've done the best I can.
I love that. That's so wholesome. I wish I could be that wholesome. I feel like I'm fake wholesome. I feel like I try and say something sweet, but people look at me like I'm a mean old house cat.
Yeah, well, look, I've grown a lot my years post service and during my service. I struggled a lot when honestly, I struggled a lot when I got out of the service. I went straight from the military straight to USC, and that was like a whole like clash of cultures, and like USC is known for, it's like, what is it, University of Spoiled Children. I was around a lot of, some of these kids were driving Porsches, and like, they had a lot of money and daddy money and stuff to come make their prized possession film, and I was just like a grinder. I was using my GI Bill and struggling in my personal life and everything, and trying to figure out who I was post service. So by no means have I got things all figured out. I'm still growing and working on that.
For everyone who's watching, you should know, Robert has accomplished a lot at only the age of 40 years old. And to be able to accomplish things like that, it's not just luck. There's a lot of skill and time management and hard work and 20-hour days. I have to ask, for everybody who wants to get to where you are at in life quicker, what's the biggest time waster that you did that you feel like held you back, that you wish you would have just skipped over or glossed over so you could get to where you're at in life quicker?
Bitterness.
Can you tell me? I need to learn too. Tell me.
Obviously you have the things, it's like video games. It's like, look, video games are great, but if you're spending, tons of hours a week playing Call of Duty, whatever it is, and I'm not hating on anything. I'm not hating on anybody's hobbies. Like, whatever you do out there that you think is going to give you the decompression time or whatever. But the reason I say bitterness is that I spent a lot of time, when I graduated USC, I thought I was like the shit, right? I'm like, I graduated USC, I got all this stuff from the military, I was the most videographer of the year awards coming out of the military and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, I became bitter because I didn't get what my imagination was coming up with, and that I would rest in that bitterness, and it would make me angry. It'd make me less productive. It'd make me feel like I was waiting for opportunity instead of seizing opportunity. There were times where it's like I needed to focus in on the small things, the unfun things, like the things that are not like learn things that I didn't want to learn about creativity or the business side of things or the money side of things or producing, all of the things, and needed to manage my time better. I needed to get in shape. Like, it was just like I left film school like 40 pounds heavier than I went, because it's like, you can't work out as much and you're doing creativity, and it's like doing the things that are going to make you proud of just living life, and also like getting right with people. That stuff accrues, that stuff helps you in your career too, in my opinion. It's like that baggage, if you could kind of let go of all that and focus on what you need to do, it'll help you manage like when you could kind of like, when I see what I want, and I kind of try to project it into the future, I have to be okay with it not turning out the way that I wanted, but still grind to get there, if that makes sense. There's a line, I'm a fan of hip hop, and there's
me too. Are you serious?
Yeah. So I'm from Los Angeles, and I love Nipsey Hussle, right? So God, rest in peace. And his whole adage, like, the marathon continues, like grind all your life. Like there's like, you just got to keep grinding, and you're gonna take hits, and you're gonna fall. Like you're talking about how I won 4 Emmys. I've lost 6.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean?
I've been nominated for what I think 5 or 6 other times that I've lost.
But that's so interesting that you view it that way, that you're counting those as losses rather than not wins.
I hate losing. I hate losing. We got nominated about, I lost one. I actually flew to DC. It was a DC regional Emmy, right? So
Yeah.
we flew out a few months ago and we got all dressed up and everything, and we lost. And I thought ours was better. It's not like sports where it's like, it's you win because you're just, it's like very, art is subjective, right? So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
resonate with it, and they resonated with the other one, and the other one won. And it was just like, losing is almost harder for me than winning is nice, I guess.
Do you feel like there's politics involved?
Well, this is, see, I'm trying to release, like I said, I'm trying to
All
release
right,
the bitterness,
we can skip
right?
over it.
I'm trying to release like the excuses of like whether I did or I didn't, but
The bitterness, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I rested in the bitterness of losing for about 48 hours, and then I'm just like, get over it. And then look, I won one last week, which was for a piece that I'm really, really proud of. So, you know, you lose some, you win some. If I could kind of maintain the same grind, whether or not I win or I lose, to me, that's like something that I'm trying to focus on.
Well, speaking of the future and things you're thinking about focusing on, what is a goal the future you would wish you would just accomplish already and stop putting off for the next day or the next week or the next month? What's a future goal you wish the future version of you would just accomplish already?
Love it. Well, you know, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to direct scripted films, right?
Okay.
So I have a horror movie that I've been trying to get made for a while, and it's a, you know, low budget horror, and it's really good. And that's to me the next level. Like, I've been doing these documentaries, which I'm really proud of. I have this documentary with Vet TV, Interpreters Wanted, that I'm really super proud of and can't wait to show everybody. And then I have another documentary that I've been working on for years about the whole 𝙎𝙀𝙏 𝙏𝙏 search and saga, the whole thing. And that's a whole separate story.
I'm invested in that, by the way. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
So that one's an interesting one that's been hard to get through the door in Hollywood. However, the scripted horror movie that I want to make, I think, is the next big goal that I would love to achieve.
I need some negative information here. I need you to give me some negative stuff. Hold back only if your publicist sees this or something like that. All right. All right. What is the biggest mistake that you feel people who are trying to get in your field, people who could be veterans, make and held them back that you wish they would just realize they're making it already?
Well, okay, there's a couple. I mean, the bitterness and the ego. Like, we get a big inflated ego in this industry. It's like we have you make a film that resonates with people, and people attach themselves to artists, whether it's not, you know, musicians and filmmakers and all this stuff. And it's like, one of the things that I learned about going into the military is how humble so many of these, like, when you've met somebody who has done some real shit in combat, like has really done some stuff, and they're so humble about it, they'll never even tell you about it. It's the opposite in Hollywood. Like, you go to a Hollywood party and it's like, they can't wait to tell you all the crap that they've done, and they don't want to listen, and they don't want to like listen to what other people are doing. And it's like, honestly, throw out the ego, listen to people, be kind to people, because it all comes around. I've seen people at the top who were jerks fall. I've seen people who were at the bottom rise to the top. You know, so it's like, you never know. And I guess for me, talking personally, I would say maybe don't squander personal relationships, because when we're happy internally with our relationships in life, I think it helps make a better overall career. Because at the end of the day, what I've learned about my life is that, you know, career can't be everything. Relationships and people and love and other things are important too. So, you know, I got 2 kids, 14 and 11. They're the world to me. I'm a single dad, and they're my full-time life and job, and everything else is secondary. So I would say, you know, at the end of the day, you know, what is it that each of us want to look back on? And, you know, a whole bunch of Emmys are cool, but if my kids hate me,
Yeah.
maybe I need to rethink some things. So there you go.
It's a genuine answer. I feel like so many people forget what's holding them back is their social skills, their soft skills, the way they're just speaking to people, the way they're speaking about themselves. Not being socially aware is a downfall of so many people in every field. So I guess it's odd for me and maybe the audience to see that is Hollywood too, that it maybe you could do better in Hollywood per se with just better social skills, you know, unless you are a nepotism baby, maybe you don't need them. You
Yeah.
never know.
Oh, look, if we're in this field,
Yeah.
we have some narcissism inside of us that that probably needs to be held on to a degree, because if you have something in you that you feel like you need to share with the world,
Yeah.
that there's a little ego there, but that's also okay. So it's like balancing that ego. Like, I do have something I want to say to the world in a lot of different ways, and that takes, you know, a little bit of a heightened self of what I want to, what I've achieved or what I want to say. And yet in that, like, remember that where I started, where I came from,
Yeah.
where, you know, the people, remembering guys like Justin and Aaron, remembering the people who have sacrificed, and like there's a lot that came before us. And that's one thing that I've always gotten frustrated with the perception of Hollywood people, is that they maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy if I ever, you know, get higher in my career. So.
And clearly to me and the audience, Robert, you are not. Hey, Vet TV, if you're everybody watching, please reach out to Robert Hamm via any of his socials or follows. Can you drop any of your socials you would want them to follow and maybe say, hey, I saw your interview and it really connected with me?
Yeah, for sure. So my website has all of my stuff. If you're interested in viewing all of my material, I'm on Instagram as well. HAMMR Productions, no E, HAMMR Productions. It's an acronym. I started it with my late wife, who passed of cancer this last year. And so a lot of my work is on there, and I'm on Facebook too. So reach out and say hi. And I'm always interested in communicating and talking with veterans, especially in the creative space, because we need more veterans sharing their stories and getting the stories of those who have served out there to the rest of the country. So.
All right. Again, thank you, Robert, for being with us. And thanks, guys, for watching from Vet TV.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks. See you guys.
Appreciate it.